First up, we have The Matrix Reloaded. Keanu Reeves, Matrix Reloaded. And it's still got the little booklet inside. Look at that. Still got to plug into the Matrix little booklet. Let's see here. Oh, no! Look at this, folks. It is the Matrix cover. And look what's inside of it. Shrek! Shrek! I'm hoping there's a Shrek cover down in here that goes with this Reloaded. I hope they reloaded inside the Shrek. But anyway, it is Matrix Reloaded VHS cover with Shrek movie inside. Next up, we have Above the Law with Steven Seagal. Above the Law, Steven Seagal. Next up, we have Clint Eastwood is Dirty Harry. Clint Eastwood is Dirty Harry. We have the movie called Aftershocks. Earthquake, Aftershocks. Aftershocks. Earthquake in New York. Aftershocks. Who plays in that? I don't think I've ever seen that. Don't know. We have the movie with no cover called Home Alone. Home Alone, VHS. We have Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. We have the movie called Tears of the Sun. Tears of the Sun with Bruce Willis. Tears of the Sun. Let's see. Tears of the Sun, Bruce Willis, yes. Go side. We have the movie called Star Trek Undiscovered. Star Trek. Part 4 looks like, or 5. 6. Undiscovered Country. Part 6. Star Trek. Part 6. Never was a fan of Star Trek. No. I mean, I've watched a few episodes and a few movies and whatnot, but never was a big fan. Lethal Weapon Part 2. Lethal Weapon Part 2. Mel Gibson. Danny Glover. Lethal Weapon Part 2. We have Eddie Murphy in Daddy Daycare. Daddy Daycare. Ooh, look at this. Now, this is a good one. Best of Halloween Havoc. WCW. WCW. As they all know, my channel is also wrestling. Lovely. Nice little surprise there. WCW Best of Halloween Havoc. Got the Hollywood, the Giant, Lex Luger. Nice one. Next up, we have Lethal Weapon Part 1. Lethal Weapon Part 1. Next up, we have, what is this? The Virginian. The Virginian. The Virginian. Next up, we got, what is this? The Scorpion King with Dwayne Johnson. The Scorpion King. Next up, we got The Art of War with Wesley Snipes. The Art of War. Wesley Snipes. The Art of War. Next up, we got End of Days with Arnold. End of Days. Arnold. Next up, we got Universal Soldier Part 1. Universal Soldier. Got the plastic on it. I'm going to take that plastic right off. Throw it over yonder somewhere. We have Universal Soldier Part 1. Next up, we got Sister Act Part 1. Whoopi Goldberg's Sister Act Part 1. Next up, what is this? We have the Pluto Campaign. Never heard of it. Pluto Campaign. Starship Troopers Chronicles. Next up, what do you got? Under Siege with Steven Seagal. Under Siege Part 2. Demon Skull. Under Siege Part 2. Next up, what do we got here? Let me pull it out. Uh-oh, don't want to rip it. I bet you I did. Oh, no. We got The Mummy Returns. The Mummy Returns. Dwayne Johnson. Mummy Returns. Next up, we have The Cowboys with John Wayne. The Cowboys. Cowboys with John Wayne. Next up, we got Here Come the Men in Black. Men in Black. Men in Black. Will Smith. Will Smith. Mr. Jones. Next up, we got 8 Seconds. 8 Seconds. I believe that's got Luke Perry and all of them in it. Yeah, Luke Perry, Stephen Baldwin. 8 Seconds. Next up, we got another Wesley Snipes here in The Passenger 57. Passenger 57. Passenger 57. Next up, we got The Whole 9 Yards. The Whole 9 Yards. Bruce Willis. The Whole 9 Yards. Next up, we got G.I. Jane. G.I. Jane. Demi Moore. G.I. Jane. With Demi Moore. It's coming undone here. Stick it back in here. G.I. Jane with Demi Moore. G.I. Jane. Next up, we have Collateral Damage with Arnold. Collateral Damage with Arnold. Pretty good movie. Next up, we got VeggieTales. VeggieTales. Cartoon series. VeggieTales. Next up, we got Mad Max. Mad Max. The film that started all. Mel Gibson. Mad Max. Next up, we got Backdraft. Backdraft. Kurt Russell in Backdraft. Backdraft. Good movie. Next up, we have a movie called White Christmas. White Christmas. Next up, we have The Rundown with Sean William Scott and Dwayne Johnson. The Rundown. The Rundown. Next up, we have the movie called The Kid. Disney's The Kid with Bruce Willis. The Kid. Next up, we have Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle. Next up, what do we got here? We got a movie called Space Hunter Adventures the Forbidden Zone. Space Hunter the Forbidden Zone. Weird looking movie, never seen it. Next up, what do we have? We have Rambo, The First Blood Part 2. Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Good movies. Next up, what do we got here? We got Code of Silence with Chuck Norris. Code of Silence. Code of Silence with good old Chuck Norris. Films looks like it's about had it in the box. It's pretty rough shape. Code of Silence. Next up, what do we got? We have Tombstone. Tombstone. Kurt Russell and a lot of others in Tombstone. That's a good movie. Tombstone. Got plastic over the top of it. I'll take that plastic off. Tombstone. That's a good movie. I like old Tombstone. Next up, we have a movie called Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves. Next up, we have again Unforgiven. Unforgiven. A good movie. Real good movie. Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood. Unforgiven. I like that movie. It's a good movie. Next up, we have Silverado. 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 And it is, I believe, a slide case. Silverado. Silverado. That's a classic Silverado. Next up, we got Chuck Norris is Delta Force. Delta Force. Delta Force. Next up, we have Star Trek 3, The Searchers for Spock. Sealed, never opened. Next up, we have Pierce Bronson and Dictator 2. The Dictator 2. Dictator 2. Next up, we have Marked for Death, Steven Seagal. Marked for Death, Steven Seagal. Excuse me, Marked for Death. Next up, we have Pollyanna. 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 And Walt Disney. Pollyanna. Next up, we have Independence Day. Will Smith. Independence Day. Next up, we have Armed Response with David Carradine and Lee Van Cleef. Armed Response. Armed Response. Next up, we have a good classic here, Turner and Hooch, and it is sealed. Turner and Hooch. Good old Kmart back in the day. Turner and Hooch. Next up, we have Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Time Cop. I've been renting this a few times in my day. Time Cop. Next up, we got another one. Independence Day. Again, no. Yeah, Independence Day. And it is sealed. This one is sealed. Free 3D live action art, free poster offer, $5 rail and rebate. Independence Day. Sealed. Next up, we have Jungle. George of the Jungle. George of the Jungle with Brendan Fraser. George of the Jungle. Next up, we got Braddock again. Part 2. Mission in Action. Mission in Action Part 2. And inside is actually Part 3. Part 3 is inside this. Not 2, but Part 3. This is Part 3. Braddock. Part 3. Huh. Now, on my video, Part 1 of the haul, on the other video, I said this was Part 2. And to me, it looks like it might be Part 3. I didn't read inside or nothing like that, so I don't know about that. I'm going to keep this out, because I don't think I have Part 3. We'll check that out. We'll have to look at that later. Check it out later. Next up, we got American Ninja. American Ninja. That's an old one. American Ninja. American Ninja. Next up, we got Romancing the Stone. Romancing the Stone. I think it's got Danny DeVito in it. Romancing the Stone. What I'd like would be Danny DeVito. Anyway, next up, we got Days of Thunder. Tom Cruise, Days of Thunder. Next up, we have Mel Gibson in Payback. Mel Gibson in Payback. Payback. Next up, we have Van Damme in Hard Target. Hard Target. Van Damme. Hard Target. And last but not least, we have Home Alone 3. Home Alone 3. Well, folks, that wraps this segment up from NDT Clex Wrestling Plus VHS.